Welcome to day 12 of Let's Get Exam Ready. Today we're focusing on essay response questions and looking at the mark scheme in detail to understand how we can write top scoring essay responses in both paper 1 and paper 2. In all ERQs, we're aiming to demonstrate knowledge of the topic, include relevant research to support our arguments, and include well-developed critical thinking. Credit is also given for writing focused and organised essays. The same assessment descriptors are used in both paper 1 and paper 2 to mark your essays. Understanding these assessment descriptors really helps you gain insight into how the examiner is going to mark your essay and what they're going to give credit for. There are 5 criterion used to mark your essays, and the first criterion A is worth 2 marks. This is where the examiner, after reading your whole essay, decides how focused was your essay on the actual topic. So if the topic was about ethical considerations, did you stay focused on that topic, or did you wander away from that topic in your essay and start talking about other things like sampling techniques or researcher bias? Things that aren't necessarily relevant to ethical considerations. After reading your whole essay, the examiner is also going to decide how well did you address the command term. So in essays, command terms are important, and we need to make sure that we're doing what the command term is asking us to do. For example, if the essay asks us to discuss ethical considerations, we need to make sure we don't just describe them. This would not allow us to gain full marks in this criterion if we didn't address the command term of discuss. The different possible command terms for essay response questions are going to be looked at individually in future videos to help provide you with more insight into how to actually address each different command term. Criterion B is worth 6 marks, and this is all about your knowledge of the topic. If you've watched the earlier videos, you'll see how important it is to not just remember studies, but also make sure when you're revising, you are revising knowledge of the topic. This is because you're going to be given credit for demonstrating knowledge of the topic. Not just your knowledge of the studies, knowledge of the topic itself. Your knowledge needs to be detailed and it needs to be fully accurate to score in the top mark band for criterion B. And you can also demonstrate knowledge and understanding for this criterion by including relevant psychological terms. Psychology is a subject like many science subjects that has specific terminology that you've learned as a psychology student, and including these terms when appropriate will help demonstrate your knowledge. Criterion C is normally the criterion that students do really well in because they've learnt their studies and they include relevant research in their responses. But students are often not scoring at the top mark band for criterion C because they're just putting studies in and not actually linking them to the question. So to score in the top mark band for criterion C, you need to use appropriate research, explain it accurately and in detail, and make sure you link the research to the question. So don't just include the research and then move on to another point. Before you move on, make sure you explain how that study that you've chosen to include in your essay links to the question. What's the purpose of it being in your essay? The general recommendation is to include 2 studies in essay response questions to help you score well for this criterion. And criterion D is normally the lowest scoring criterion for students. This is because they're not sure what we mean by critical thinking. And often students are just listing lots of different ideas and not taking time to actually develop them and explain them. So rather than just list a lot of different strengths or limitations, we need to actually take time and explain and develop our critical thinking points. This will be looked at in more detail in our day 14 video. And finally, as long as your essay has an introduction, main body paragraphs and a conclusion, and all the arguments and points you're making are clear, then you should score the full 2 marks for the criterion E. After your introduction, normally you'd have time to write 3 main body paragraphs and then your conclusion. So aim to write 3 main body paragraphs for every essay response. Tomorrow's video and the videos over the next upcoming days are all going to focus on essay response questions, providing you valuable insights into how to increase your critical thinking, top tips on do's and don'ts, and how to address each of the different command terms.